Hey gang, Ruin here. Welcome on back to the Cade and another episode of Suckerpunch Sunday, where we do a deep dive into a classic fighting or fighting platform-based game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. And for this week, we're going to go all the way back to the 1980s and play a game that at the time I thought I knew a lot about, because I thought this was based on something from the 1970s, when in fact it's based on something from the 1980s. We're going to play Kung Fu. Now, this game originally was called Kung Fu Master in Japan. It was also known as Spartan X. And the general plot of this game is that you play this character, Thomas, and you are trying to rescue your girlfriend from crime lords who have kidnapped her and put her on the 5th floor of a pagoda. You don't get much more detail than that. But what I originally thought was this game was based off of the final film that was created by the late great Bruce Lee in the 1970s called Game of Death. If you're familiar with that story, it's the same thing. He plays a movie star who has to rescue his girlfriend and stop people who are trying to end the both of them by going up the 5 levels of a pagoda and fighting different masters of martial arts at each level. Turns out, this game is actually based off of a 1984 Jackie Chan film directed by the equally great Sammo Hung called Wheels on Meals that celebrated its 40th anniversary, now that we're officially in September, just last month in August. So, as a kid, I thought this was a great game because it completely indulged in my love of all things Bruce Lee. That it has got connections to Jackie Chan, and of course, in terms of martial arts and martial arts media, all roads inevitably lead back to Bruce Lee, including Jackie Chan, which I'll get into in a minute. But what we're going to do over the course of the next half an hour or so is we're going to try and get through this game. Now, this game could also count as a one-day playthrough. So you get your punches, and you get your kicks. But what you want to be able to do is you have to pay attention to that timer that is in the upper right-hand corner, because it is running down really quick. And if you don't finish the level before you get to the end of that timer, you're automatically dead. Now, you don't get any real special moves in this game. It is as straightforward bread and butter as they come. And you don't want guys to grab you, because if they grab you, you see your life is getting whittled down quite a bit. Now here's the stick fighter. Oof. And I thought I was hitting him with the low kicks, and instead, he immediately put me down. Now, in order to get through this game, it is very much about pattern recognition and timing, like most games of this type. Now, you have to hit up to jump. The guy who throws knives, you have to hit him twice to put him down, either with a punch or a kick. And even though I have turbo functions on this controller, it doesn't really help you that much in this sort of a game. Although it can help you right here. Ah! Can I get him? Yes! I got him, but barely. Can I get to the edge? Yes. If you can get to the edge, you're okay, because you'll go to the next floor of the pagoda. Now, I will not have to fight through this level again unless I lose the game. And you see that first square in the middle of the screen above how many lives I have left now has 2. Now I gotta be really careful. Because those snakes will come down very, very quickly and put you away. And you don't want them to drop on you like that, and you want to be able to kick. Oof. I say you want to be able to kick the jugs as they're dropping. You want to kick those big confetti balls. And you want to make sure the dragons don't breathe fire on you. But if you lose, you have to go all the way back and start over. Now, this is a game that once you get really good at it, you can probably beat it in about 15 minutes. And like what we did with Donkey Kong Classics a couple of weeks ago for a one-day playthrough. It's just a matter of the degree of difficulty goes up with each subsequent playthrough you have. Ouch. Did not mean to jump and put my groin right in the direct line of fire with that knife. Ah! He went down. I thought he was going to stay upright. But the bosses you fight don't have any real special abilities either. So on level 1, obviously it's the stick fighter. Ah! Level 2, I think, if I remember right, is because there's snakes on the... I think he is like a snake charmer. Ow. There we go. We're just gonna keep moving. Now, what sucks is, I get hit once, and I'm dead at this next level. Because I'm not going to get all my life back. I don't think. And because this is a port over from... No, you do get your real life back. Okay. Alright, I'm just going to keep moving. Ow. Now, the little guys, you got to be careful because they can jump up and do, like, double hits. They'll jump and do spin hits. Ah, yeah, it's a boomerang thrower. Ah! I thought I had him. He had a backup boomerang there. Alright, let's see if I can whittle these guys down. There we go. Ah! And duck. And we made to level 3. Now, level 3, if I remember right, is the strongman. Now, this game, over the course of its lifetime, and it was released in November of 1984, was originally put out in arcades under the names Kung Fu Master or Spartan X, which is another title for Wheels on Meals. There, got another guy. So you hit 50,000, you get another guy, which is really critical in a game like this. But you see the guys are coming at me a little bit quicker now and from different directions. There's the strong man. Like I said, he hits hard. Ouch. Now, because of the repetitive nature of this game, it's one that a lot of people nowadays probably wouldn't find much interest in. But, like, this was the equivalent of the fighting games that we had when we were coming out of the great crash of '83, and the Nintendo Entertainment System was looking to establish itself. Ow. Alright, I have to be quick about beating this guy. Ugh. Instead I got a straight punch and that was it. So I made a level 3. And I've got 12 minutes to spare so I can try it again. But before we dive back into this, like I said, this game originally came out in arcades. It was ported over to the Famicom, which was the Japanese precursor to the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was released on the Apple II, the Commodore 64, the Atari 2600, the MSX, the ZX Spectrum, the Atari 7800, and then finally the Game Boy. And when it was released, the reviews for this game, for the most part, were fairly positive, although this version, the NES version, was the lowest ranked at the time. It only got 2.5 stars from All Game magazine, although Computing and Video Games magazine gave it a 9 out of 10. Conversely, it gave the 2600 version just a 54%. So it depends on the console and who was reviewing it, but things seemed fairly mixed at the time. It was a #1 bestseller in arcades in North America in 1984. It ended up selling about 5,000 arcade cabinets on its initial release in '85. And then it was later the second top-grossing upright arcade cabinet by the end of 1985, just below Capcom's Commando. Now, as you see, this game was created by Nintendo in association with IREM and Shigeru Miyamoto, who was the man behind all the great Nintendo games of pretty much for the last 4 decades, was one of the designers of this one. So let's see if we can get through this damn thing. I felt better that I made it all the way up to level 3, but dealing with the strongman is where it gets rough. Now, doing the jump kick can help. And I remember there is a trick with these purple guys that if you kick down so many of them in a row and then do the jump kick on the next guy, it gives you a huge point boost, which can help you get an extra guy quicker, but ultimately ooh, and he almost got me. Just that little bit, and he would have had me. But I already made it through level 1 with 2 guys. And I get a full reboot of health, which will be great. Now, when TopScore reviewed this game in early 1987, they called it, quote, a fantastic reproduction of its arcade counterpart and an action-packed winner. Ah, and that's why you want to get the dragons quick. Because they breathe fire and they just absolutely wipe you out health-wise. Alright, let that one go. Jump the snakes. Take out the dragons. Oh, get there before they grab me. It's like, oh, duck the boomerang, jump the boomerang, and avoid the guys because you're just about out of life. So now we're back to level 3. And if things bode well, we should be able to pick up an extra guy on this level. In 2017, when IGN did their ranking of the 100 best NES games of all time, this one came in at 62nd, which is a respectable number for a game of this type. Again, it's not flashy. By modern standards, there would be so much more stuff involved in a fighting game like this. And having played oh, I'm not going to make it. One of my favorite games of the 6th or 7th generation, I should say, and it's been ported over a couple of times, is a Hong Kong action game built very much like Grand Theft Auto called Sleeping Dogs. And it was one of those games that I wasn't thinking much about when I picked it up because I got it for like $10 from a used game shop. And I absolutely love that game. And it has very much the martial arts vibe to it that a game like this tried to establish 4 decades earlier. Oh, I'm not going to do well against the strongman here. Where the heck is he? There he is. And he just throws that one big old ham hock. That's as far as I can get. In their review for this game, also in Computer and Video Games, they called it, quote, a near-perfect conversion with all the gameplay and levels intact from the arcade original, praising the gameplay as well as solid graphics and sound. But when IGN, I should say, did their rankings of the top 100 NES games of all time, part of the review said that despite being a, quote, dumbed-down port compared to the arcade original, it was still a fun game with rewarding gameplay, challenging boss battles, and replay value. I'm inclined to agree with that, so let's see if we can try one more time to get through it, because we just got to get past level 3. Now, I think what it is that 10th guy, I tried to jump kick him. And if I can pull that off, then if I remember it right, because it was in the Nintendo Strategy Guide, which I still have. To this day, I still have my copy of that came with my original NES. There we go. But Kung Fu is one of the many games that was listed in there with a lot of little tips of how to get through everything. And now that I think about it, I know if I can get through level 3 and past the strongman, level 4, the boss on that level is the magician. Ow. Who can both breathe... Ow, I didn't want to jump into that. He can both breathe fire, and if you go for his head, you can actually knock his head off. Ah! I thought he was going to go down with that boomerang and not throw it back up. But as you see, the levels don't change at all as far as what you get from baddies. The stand-up, the actual human aggressors that you were dealing with. That can change. And I didn't want to jump. Man, that was just awful. Because up is jump and you don't hit A or B to jump, it can be very easy using the D-pad to let yourself fall victim to it. And you jump into more stuff than you want to deal with. Ah! Jump the boomerang, down he goes. Get to the end, thank you. Alright, well, I will get one crack at trying to get to the strongman and maybe beating him on this level. Now, they did do sequels to this game. One, and this is the name of it, I'm not trying to be untoward in this, is called Dragon Wang. Because the protagonist in it, his name is Wang. Get off me. Really, dude? There's the strong man. I almost had him. And that's one of the frustrating things about this game, is that you can get the pattern recognition figured out, and you can be right there, and then you take one wrong shot, and that's it, it's over. But that, everybody, in a nutshell, is Kung Fu, also known as Kung Fu Master, also known as Spartan X from 1984, for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now let's get the brass tacks out of the way. Is this a good game? Yes and no. I like the fact that graphically it's easy to follow. It's not complicated. The controls are not complicated. You have a punch and a kick. Your D-pad moves you left and right and jump. But because it's really easy with the D-pad to inadvertently hit jump, or be moving the wrong direction as you're trying to hit an enemy, that can leave you open to getting attacked. I don't know if playing with a joystick would be any better. With my Xbox controller, it wasn't really allowing me to do that. If this was a game that could be remade today, and I honestly don't see why I couldn't, the way that modern controls are built and with the amount of mechanics that are in modern games, I don't see any reason why it would be difficult to create a mechanical system for your character, Thomas, where you have a jump button, you have a kick button, you have a punch button, you have... I honestly am fine with the fact that it doesn't have, like, special attacks and stuff that would come in later games, because it's a matter of escalation, and if you're looking for just a brass tacks punch and kick fighting simulator, or an action game of that sort, then having the bells and whistles of a special attack, there's a million games that have that. What made this game unique back in the day, and to an extent was because it really hadn't been thought of yet, was because that wasn't an option. You had to purely rely on your abilities as a martial artist to fight your way up each level of the pagoda, get past the bosses, and then move up to the next one and do it all over again to beat Mr. X and get Sylvia back. And then once you beat him, you start it all over again from the bottom. Again, very much like Donkey Kong and like other conventional arcade games of the time 40 years ago. It was just rinse and repeat, and the game got a little bit more challenging. Now, on this version, I don't remember what game B is, and while I've got it here, I can give it a shot and see what it is, because why not? But as you see, there's no real difference between game A and... Whoa, duck. Ow. Although the guys come at you a lot quicker in this one. So I think that's what it is, that the guys come at you a lot faster. And that's the real difference between the two. So, in that respect, you've got two different difficulty levels that you can try out. And then it's that get good mentality. It's, you learn the pattern recognition. You learn how to utilize punches over kicks. You figure out if there's a way you can get more points by doing jump kicks and whatnot of certain things. You do that. Because it's all about the more points you get gives you more lives. And then that will allow you to move further up the pagoda and win. Now, they have not, as far as I know, done an actual revamp of this game. There had been talk about it as early as 2016. And then there was a sequel that was released in Japan in 1991 called Spartan X2. But it was never ported over to the US. And it was much more of a... Double Dragon, Streets of Rage type game, as opposed to being this type of game. So, if you've played that game and have any experience with it, by all means, leave it in the comments below and let me know. But, you know, for me, this is one that I can go back, and if I want to challenge myself a little bit with a classic NES game, I can do that. Again, you're not wasting a ton of time by playing it. If you can figure it out, you can beat it seriously in 15 minutes. If you just want a quick, challenging game that is not complicated and is exactly what's advertised on the tin, as the ad folks like to say, then this is what you get for a fighting game. So, or if you want to try something more complicated, or more sophisticated, you can do that too. It's completely your choice on it. But, you know, for those of us who grew up playing this game back in the 80s, there is a fair amount of nostalgia connected to it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a terrible game. Doesn't mean it's a great game, but it could be a lot worse. So that, again, is Sucker Punch Sunday for this week. If you've been enjoying the content on this channel, you know what to do about that. Be sure to tune in for our ongoing playthrough of Super Robot Wars 3 from the Super Nintendo from 1991. I inadvertently said because it's Super Robot Wars 3 and I have mild dyslexia. It's 1993. It's 1991. We are now, I think, a half dozen episodes into it, and we are starting to pick up a lot more in terms of our mechs and all other stuff in the game. We will have new episodes that will be posted on Monday and Wednesday, and also be sure to tune in for our next Sports Saturday coming up next weekend as well, where we will go back and continue with our great what-if scenario of creating the New England Patriots dynasty of the early 2000s and all the way up to 2020, still staggers me, using Sega Sports NFL 2K2, because Tom Brady doesn't exist on that game. So it's, can we create one of the greatest dynasties in all of sports history without the guy who made it all go? Yes, you can say what you will about Bill Belichick. One wouldn't have won without the other. That theory has been laid to rest. So, one quick programming note while I got to here really fast before we get out. We are going to be off on the first weekend of fall. So September 21st and 22nd, we will not be here. The Cade will be closed down because I get to go on vacation for a couple of days. And as a result of that, I've got to get a lot of work done on my day job before I get out of Dodge. And so as a result of that, I'm not going to really have time to record new episodes before that. I'm only going to be on for a couple of days, so it won't be the end of the world. But I am allowed a vacation, and I'm going to take full advantage of it, especially because it's the first weekend of fall. So just heads up on that. Be sure to follow us on social media through Instagram and Threads or Ronan's Retrocade to help spread the word about us as we continue to build this channel and make it bigger and better. My name is Ronan. It has been great to spend this Sucker Punch Sunday with you. Be safe, be well, happy gaming, and stay cool out there. We're down to less than a month in summer, but man, it don't feel like it. It's currently 88 degrees in my place, so I'm going to go get me something cold to drink, get some cool air in here, and then we will see you tomorrow as we're carrying on with our playthrough of Super Robot Wars 3. Bye!